Kia ora, Aaron. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you very much. Thanks for asking.
So where are you joining us from for this korero?
I'm in our house. We're partway through renovating, so I'm sort of temporarily on the kitchen table at the moment.
Oh, and you mentioned there was some building work behind, but I don't think we can hear that.
Fingers crossed. It's a bit noisy today.
So you're based in Queenstown, is that right?
Yes, I'm in lovely Fernhill. Yes.
Oh, excellent. And I guess for those people that don't know you, you're a relatively new name to the candidate pool in the district potentially. So do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and I guess why you decided to run?
Yes, so I'm a Southlander. I was born in Winton, family farm, multi-generational, Central Southland College, Otago University. Managed to get a Tiwai Smelter scholarship as well. And as everyone in their 20s did, I did the big OE off to England and came back here for a year, but went back. And so I've ended up spending 30 years in the UK and Europe. So a number of different countries there, mainly England, but also the Czech Republic, Italy, Ireland, Switzerland, sort of thing. And so when I was in Switzerland, I was skiing all the time and I was thinking, I'm going to miss this. And Queenstown popped back into my head, as it does. And so my wife and I bought some land here about 14 years ago now with the hope to build a house. But our daughter was still too young at that stage. So as she grew up, went to university, got a job, we then decided it was time to come back. And we bought our tickets a year before COVID. And our
Oh,
date just happened to coincide with COVID. We had to bring it forward a month, and we came back to New Zealand. We tried to build, but we didn't manage to succeed, and so we ended up buying out. So we're slowly trying to do that up now.
right. Okay. So sorry, did you move just before COVID kind of really took shape?
Yeah, we flew into Christchurch just as they had the first lockdown, so we
Right.
self-imposed our own quarantine in Christchurch.
Right.
And then we drove down to it was the family farm, as it was all empty and it was very eerie with just no one around.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And politically, what made you decide to run, or what kind of made you put your name forward for being a candidate?
Yeah, so I emailed the Queenstown councillors, all four of them in one go, asking about the rate increases, why we're getting double-digit rate increases. And it was Matt Wong that suggested that I stand. He said, if you've got views on this, you should stand. And I just sort of brushed it off, but then I thought about it and I thought, maybe I should, because the things that he said in the email conversation, he said that that inherited a number of problems, including the wastewater and the leaky buildings problem. But from my knowledge, we've been told for a long time there was no wastewater problem. He's had knowledge of it for at least 3 years. So I feel that we're being kept in the dark. We're getting lots of big rate increases. And as I've dug into it more and more and more, I can see sort of problems that I don't particularly like. I feel others don't like them as well. So I've not been a political person in the past. I never have been, but I want to make a change, some difference.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not doing this then, or what you've done in the past.
My background is in computing and IT. I got a degree in computer science at Otago. I then contracted for 30 years in the UK. So I mainly worked for a bank, such as my last one in London was Investec Private Bank, doing corporate FX, products, etc. Before that, UBS in Switzerland, Global Asset Management, other banks like Czech Bank, Postbank, and then subprime mortgages. So I worked for Lehman Brothers as that collapsed, which is one of the famous ones, but generally large financial companies.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll tap into that a little bit later as well. So I also ask each of the candidates if there's a kind of political theory that they follow. And I don't mean to put people on the spot with like how they vote. That's not the point of the question, but it's more just like, do you have a view of the world which has got some kind of political background or theory to it?
Yeah, I believe politics is there for the people to make the people's lives better. So I'm a firm believer in capitalist system, but with social values on top of that. So
Yeah.
without doing things for the people, what are we there for? So I think that Queenstown's got a lot going for it. We've got a lot of tourism going, but we still should be looking after the residents, the people here, and the tourists should be able to help us in living here. We shouldn't have to just generally pay for having tourists here.
Mm. Yeah, and that's been an ongoing issue and one which has been challenged at central government level a lot over the years. So it is an ongoing problem.
Well, yes, I hear a lot that we can't do things, we need central government, but I don't agree with that. I believe there's a lot that we can do without central government and without harming the tourist industry and making things better. And so we can have a win-win-win, I think.
Mm. What does that look like then for you? Have you got any thoughts on that kind of
Yes,
approach?
yeah. So the idea is how to get money from a tourist without the tourist know you're getting money from them. And I think there are several ways to do this that can benefit in other ways as well. The first one is I would like to see ANPR cameras down Frankton Road and Gorge Road. So that's automatic number plate recognition to do a congestion charge for visitors only. So you and I that live here, we can just come and go. We wouldn't even know. Then the money that we raise from that congestion charge, we can start to build some infrastructure such as park and ride buildings to make it simpler for the tourists. And as we build that, we can increase those charges. And so we get fewer visitors coming down those roads and better infrastructure for them. Then the gondola system I've talked about, it would be fantastic. It would just fit in with the rest of Queenstown with the gondola. They could have a fantastic journey in and out on a gondola. And so we would actually get money from the tourists to fund these sort of things, and it would free up the roads. And so that would save us a huge amount on building roads. And to be honest, I think the roads we're building recently are ugly and detract from Queenstown, and they're killing the look of Queenstown. It also frees up parking in Queenstown, and so that's a win-win there. There are other secondary ways. You can have maybe a windfall tax on places such as petrol stations that are charging over and above the local averages. They're doing that because they're making money of tourism. As a council, perhaps we could increase their rates to get them to bring those down, or to get a windfall tax off them. Either way, it's going to win for the locals, and no one's going to really notice except if we win. And so there are a number of small ways that you can get quite a lot of money without people noticing and general benefits.
Okay, thank you. And I guess at some of the candidates' debates, you might be able to delve into some of those more if people, have the interest and opportunity to do so. For today, because we only have 20 minutes and it's kind of a little bit more about you as a person, I guess I want to consider, as a councillor, you're one of 12 elected members. You have your views, you have your ways that potential outcomes that you think may be beneficial to the community. How do you see your role in working with staff and other councillors, and what qualities, I guess, do you think councillors need, but also importantly, what qualities does the mayor need?
Yes, I've been doing a lot of reading of the news, etc., and I see there's been problems in the past. Councillors have asked certain questions for over a year and not had responses through the council and council staff. I don't know if that's deliberate block or what, but it's very, very important that the council members and the council staff are confident to share information together, because without information, you've just got decision paralysis, and that's what I've seen. I've seen decisions that haven't been made for a long, long time because they just can't get the information. And I see part of that down to there are things called standing orders, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. And those are the rules that govern how council members work. And I believe they need amended. I've read through them in detail, and I can see huge gaps in there, and it's too much power in one area, and it blocks the council members from doing their job properly. So I think the first order of the day to amend those, and then that will get council running properly again.
Well, you'll be pleased to know they're coming straight to you, well, within the first 6 months of being in council, so that you can align those standing orders as a group of elected members to your wishes, which is, you know, absolutely opportune for the rest of the term, so that you can set the standards of behaviour, the way that you vote, etc. So great to hear that you've done your reading around those. And in terms of qualities that we just touched on, I guess, you know, some of the there's many challenges, which I guess I can't go into all of them, but for example, the source of your information that you currently have may or may not be true. It may be aspects of the truth, etc., etc. So until you get around that table, you're not necessarily going to know the reality until you experience it. Yeah. So therefore, the outcomes that we're looking for, in some ways, whilst they're important, hugely important, how you negotiate and broker and change your mind and compromise and etc. is really important. So what does that look like for you? Like, how do you navigate the world in your previous career? What does that look like for Aaron?
For me, the important thing is to know the general direction, where you want to end up, where's the long game. And so the small decisions that you make, so long as they're heading generally in the right direction, they're all good. Where I would say no is if I see you going in the wrong direction, the opposite direction, and taking us backwards. So I would generally support anything taking us in a forward direction.
Okay. I guess the challenge with that, which we won't delve into, is that the right direction is viewed differently by different people. Of course.
And that's where the voters sort of get to see people and see what they stand for and decide.
Okay. And so how would you broker a situation whereby there's kind of split decisions and really split divisive views on things? Like how would you negotiate that? Or what qualities do you feel that a mayor or a councillor needs in order to be able to do that well?
My understanding is the mayor gets a second vote. So if there's a split decision, he gets to decide. And so formally, that's the direction. But I think you're asking about leading up to that.
Yeah, this is more about leadership and qualities of character, I think.
I think it's about understanding and talking to the different people and getting their understanding, and also giving your point of view in a way that, you know, everyone can understand those points of view. In the end, you will get, you know, people that are just opposed either way, and that's just going to happen, I think. But in the end, you know, all you can do is discuss openly with them and get the best understanding you can. Do your study. I always say you need to study, get that information.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So I've found in my role at times it's been quite stressful. There's a number of reasons why. Mainly for me, it's been around trying to find ways in which you can influence a decision that you believe is what the community wants. So that's been something that I've personally struggled with, i.e., yes, I get one vote, but what are the opportunities do I have as a councillor to influence, collaborate, and change outcomes? So what that does is it creates quite a lot of stress in terms of the ability to be able to do it, and it's a long game because it's not just your decision on the day, it's what happens beforehand. And then on the day, you have public scrutiny as to, you know, how that plays out. So this is really a question about if your friends and whānau kind of described what you look like when you're stressed. and I don't know if you'll be stressed in this role, it may be a redundant question, but what would that look like?
I'm sure if you get stressed, I will also get stressed. To be honest, until you're in that position, it's hard to say. From my roles as a contract person, it's big dollars, it's high stress, it's timelines, and if you get it wrong, it's very expensive. And so I've been in that game for over 30 years. So I can only assume it's going to be something similar to that. It's important to get out, go skiing, do some exercise, get a breath of fresh air, and chill, and don't let it consume you. But when you're in there, you need to work with the people, talk to people, study, 100% in the game, but then you've got to walk away and free your mind afterwards as well, or it can consume you.
Okay, thank you. And kind of related to that, I've asked everyone whether they think that ego plays a role in standing for an elected member, and if you have an ego. So the first part of that question is ego a thing, do you think? And is it important or not?
I probably do have an ego, but
I think everyone does, right?
I think everyone does, but it's not the reason I'm standing. I'm standing because I just don't think what I'm seeing with the finances is good for anyone. And so this is what I'm really trying to help is myself, because I don't want to pay all these things. It's not just the 10+% rises, but we've gone from debts of something like 128 million, 715 million, and most of that's been in the last 3 years. Every household is now owing something like $21,000 of debt under the council debt. And I don't think people understand this, and we need to get a handle on this and get this sorted.
And I think it's a really valuable discussion to have. I don't think people understand the finances at all in terms of why it's got to this point. And obviously there's a multitude of reasons as to why it's got to this point, which probably during this corridor we won't delve into. Some of which, as you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, were some legacy issues, but that not necessarily legacy issues just at a current level, but at a countrywide level as well. So let's put that one on hold, even though it's incredibly important, and maybe it'll just lead us to the rates increases. I know that because we've had emails, I know that you have got a few views around rates and capping rates, etc. Also for listeners to know that the local government New Zealand is doing some work around this as well. So this is concurrently happening. Have you got any kind of views or anything that you wanted to say about that?
Yes, I personally have looked through the numbers, and I believe a lot of money has just been pure waste, absolutely wasted.
I didn't quite catch what you said, sorry.
Sorry. Looking at the numbers, I think a lot of money has been wasted and squandered. It didn't need to be spent. And so we've increased their debt hugely for bad reasons. And some of these are decisions that go back way before this last council. If you look at some of the big ticket items, you've got the leaky buildings, and we're paid something like 160 million just for the Oaks building, I believe. Now, people say we need central government changes to fix that. I believe we can do changes locally that would prevent that going forward, and we wouldn't get a reoccurrence of that. So I consider that money wasted because of past decisions. The road to nowhere, 128 million. I also consider that not just a waste of money, but an ugly road that doesn't suit Queenstown. You can never build your way out of traffic. You might temporarily get lower volumes, but very soon you'll get increased traffic again, even worse than before. I lived near the M25. I went from 3 lanes to 6 lanes each way, and it's still packed. You can't build your right way out of traffic. There are other ways, and we can actually make money from them rather than spend money. The Lakeview development, They're talking about 75 million for preparation on that. Why? I don't understand that. And then they're talking about Project Manawa, the new council building, where they're talking about at least 72 million for that future spend. Yeah, I just don't think we're in a position to spend that money at the moment. Maybe some future time. But I see lots of spend that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and so there's a lot involved in that piece there in terms of leaky buildings was not 160 million, but it was a significant number, which didn't amount to that. I'm certainly not defending anything, just trying to outline some of the information. And I think the issue here, right, is information as well. It's what the public see is part of the problem, or what they don't see. So there's been this level of distrust associated with it. The road to nowhere, as you call it, that was $50 million worth of Crown funding, but equally a tremendous amount of money from local ratepayers. So again, the issues related to that are outrageous and have been a real bind for this council. I actually chose not to stand again based on what happened with that particular road, because I felt that decision making had removed itself from councillors and had got to a place where, you know, essentially rubber stamping of things had become the kind of process. Arguably, you know, people could say, well, why did you say yes to something? Why did you say no to something? And sometimes it's a case of being hamstrung so tightly that you actually have to go forward with something that's 90% of the way through rather than leave it unopenable, which is the case in point. So yeah, these are the challenges that that have been faced. And again, it's not to condone anything, it's just to explain perhaps, or illustrate some components of the issue. So I think it's great to hear some of your thinking, and where I guess started from was you're one councillor amongst many, so your ability to work with others is possibly more important than your view on an outcome. That's just my opinion. So
and I'm sure it will be. I would need to work with people and see where they stand and see where the middle ground is. And I think that you'll get a core of people with similar views who can then work out you know, it's always rough edges to a plan, and between you can work something out between you. But I'm hoping if there isn't at least half the people that can do this, it's the wrong plan. You know, if I can't get support, it's the wrong plan.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, right? So look, we're coming to the end. So maybe I'll just leave the question of what could possibly go right, which is framed in that way because there have been a lot of legacy issues. There are some cultural issues. There's also central government issues. So in your mind, I think without going into the specifics of outcomes, because I think you've done that, but what do you feel could go right?
Hopeful, because I got an email from a previous councillor from quite a number of years ago complaining about developer contributions, and they actually bring in a lot of money. And he said, done right, we could possibly get up to 100 million more than what we're currently seeing. So I think there's money there that would help offset some of the past problems. But I think the first thing is getting these standing orders right and getting council, the general process is working. You've been frustrated. I've seen other councillors frustrated. If we can get these standing orders right, then we can get all the processes working again properly and get people working together.
Mm. Oh, well, lovely to talk to you today, and best wishes for your campaign. I hope it all goes well. And thank you for giving up your time. Thank you for standing.
Thank you very much. Thanks for doing this.